Okay, so warm up today, just kind of picking up from where we left off, which is solving graphically. So you actually do know how to do these by hand. So we know that this is a U-shaped graph that shifted up one. We know it's a horizontal line through one. So you actually, and same here, we can do these. We graph them by hand. But since we kind of learned using the calculator or the graphing app stuff yesterday, figure might as well put that to test here just so you can kind of see it. So if I'm doing this first one, I would go to my y equals, and I put my equations in. So I put in x squared plus 1. And then for the other one, I would just literally just put in 1. No x, no nothing. And then I'll graph those. And my window's kind of funky, so we'll zoom out of that in a second. So I was doing stuff in my calculator earlier, but remember, anytime you have this, if your window's zoomed in really weird or zoomed out really weird, you can always press zoom 6 or zoom standard to go back to your normal window, which is just negative 10 to 10. All right, sweet. So this question is asking us, when is the U-shaped graph greater than the line graph? So it pretty much always is, except for, it looks like they intersect right here. And of course, we know they do because they're both going to be at the same one there. So when we go to answer this question, there's a couple ways you could answer it. You could say it in words. You could literally say every number except 1. It's greater than it for every number except 1. But if you're going to write it with inequalities, you really should do something more like saying, am I saying 1? 0 is what I meant to say because we're talking x values. Sorry, 0 for all those. So we could say anytime x is less than 0 or anytime x is greater than 0. That'd be the correct inequality way to answer that question. Because anytime you're below 0, it's positive or above 1. Anytime you're above 0, it's above 1. So the only time it's not is actually 0. So the only non-solution to this problem is 0. All right, so same process with the other problem. So let's take a look at that one. So we go back, we put in our new equations. So 3. On the graphing calculator, remember absolute values in the math menu. So you got to press math, go to the right, and then it's your first option right there. All right, so 3 absolute value, x minus 1, and then a minus 6. So remember, we know what that's going to do. That's going to be shifted right 1 and down 6. It's going to have a slope of 3. So we already know all that. And then our second line is 0, which is just the x-axis. So you don't technically even need to put it in, as long as you know that that's the x-axis, but you can. Doesn't hurt anything. All right, so this is exactly what we expected. This graph is shifted right 1 and down 6. And here's our 0 line, which we can't really see because it just puts it right on top of the x-axis. So the question here, when is this graph greater than 0? Well, it's greater than 0 right here, and it's greater than 0 right here. So again, it's going to be 2 parts. So for this one, we're going to say anytime x is less than, and we want to know that number. It definitely looks like -1, but I'd like to know if for sure it's -1. So there's a couple ways you can check that. You could do your intersect feature like we did yesterday, where you find your intersection, and you just move it over here. And you double check, okay, yep, that is at -1. So we know for sure anytime x is less than -1, that's going to be one of my values. If you don't want to use intersect feature, you can actually use your table also. So again, this one looks like it's probably at 3, but let's say I wanted to check it in the table just to make sure. So if I go to my table, and if I go to when x is 3, because that's what I think the answer is, I can look and see if they're the same. Yeah, so at 3, they're both at 0. So again, just another way to check. The calculator's sweet because you can do a lot of stuff like that where you check various things. So anyway, from my graph, I'd say anytime x is bigger than 3. So that'd be my other solution. So anytime x is less than -1 or greater than 3.